Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm dying of heat, but it's fine. Not
Are
that
you in New
important.
York?
Great. Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn, though I'm actually in Queens now. I'm ironically in a school building, which will give you flashbacks to Blame, helping a friend set up their classroom for the next year. Um,
Amazing.
Congrats on the film.
Thank you.
I remember seeing Blame and getting very mad that you were so good at your job so early, and just wondering why I bother in my life. But I'm I'm curious how making this one compares, because I'm sure on the first one, it's a real movie, it's happening, but I'm sure there's that little bit of, are people looking at me wondering if I should be here? And then this time, everyone has seen the movie. You can go, I've done it. I've made more movies than some people on this set. So like, I can have maybe a bit of more authority, and also not pulling quadruple, quintuple duty this time around. Did it feel different?
It did. It felt different and it didn't, in that I think I always have a little bit of nerves around like coming into a set as, I don't know. I always feel like I look like a child arriving.
Yeah.
Like, even though now I'm definitely not, like, I think I on Blame, I felt the need to, I think, overcompensate with being like incredibly serious about everything and wanting to walk in and just seem like I did so much research and like I knew everything I wanted. And I think on this, I did give myself permission to be like a little bit more vulnerable and a little bit sillier. I remember like one of my first days of prep, I brought everyone Lisa Frank stickers and I was like putting them on everyone's like prep signs and like giving them their personality, like a horoscope, but by Lisa Frank stickers. And I was like, this is how I'm going to set the mood of the prep of this film. And, my crew was so like fun to collaborate with, and it was a really good energy. And I knew kind of right off the bat that I wasn't going to have a hard time collaborating with them. So I guess in that way it was different, in that everyone seemed to really trust me. And I think on Blame, I had the opportunity to work with certain department heads who were so supportive. But on this, it was kind of more of a full team group effort.
Oh yeah. I imagine on the first one you have people like, did her mom take her here to set? And now you're like, relax, like,
Yeah.
it's fine.
The
And
irony
I
is
think
my
that,
mom and I produced Blame together. So literally,
yeah.
yes, my mom did bring me to set.
Well, I mean, I remember at the time it being like, oh, I used part of my college fund to make this movie. Like, it's literally my movie. I am in all facets the boss and the star, and I wrote it and I directed it and I'm editing. So I'll just cut your ass out if I don't like it. Like, relax. Like, I'm in charge. And was it easier also to get this one made because you can show someone like, look, I've done it? Especially, this is a more ambitious film, not better or worse. They're both great, but more ambitious, I think, in what the tightrope it's walking.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no, in that, Blame was, I think if my mom and I didn't just go like, well, we will literally not take no for an answer, Blame would just not exist. Like I quite literally like paid for the movie with my college funds. Like that was such a tiny film, but it was also a film that like no one was going to get on board with because I had no way to prove myself. So yeah, I mean, after Blame, I had the opportunity to do a lot of development of a number of scripts and a number of projects, both in TV and film. But it's still like a huge journey. I mean, it's been 5 or even 6 years at this point since Blame. And so it does take a long time. I wrote the first draft of this in 2018. And then here we are, it's 2022 and it's coming out. But I do think, yes, having a film under my belt and having people know that I'm not just like a kid with a dream helped. But it was daunting to do something like, Searchlight is a company that I honestly dreamed of working with at some point in my career. So to get to work with them at such a young age, I was so scared of like, I'm going to mess it up. Like, I don't want to ruin my career, but I just like admire them so much. And they were such incredible partners in this. And it's been like the most amazing journey.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would imagine also, as the script develops, when you first write it, you might have wrote it with yourself in mind as more, maybe I'll play the role, but as you get closer to making it, you realize you start to go out to actresses. How do you figure out what you're looking for? Because you probably have your own instincts of like, here's how I would play it if it was me. And, someone else might come in and do it completely differently. And there's that balancing act of, wow, that's great, but also I had this thing in my head, but they're really great. How do you balance that out?
Yeah. So I actually never intended on playing Danny, even though I think
Oh,
I actually have taken a big step back from acting because after Blame, I realized I really wanted to focus on being behind the camera. And with this, I knew it's a kind of daunting concept. It was a very elaborate film. And so I felt like my skills would be best if I was just focused on being behind the camera. But Zoe was somebody who I had in mind from the time that I was like in early development of the script because I thought she would be so perfect for it. Thought it really aligned with a lot of what she's pursued as an actress, with playing these very like brave, provocative, daring, sometimes unlikable roles. And so I just immediately had her in mind, and I think she's brought such an incredible like authenticity and humor and relatability to such a crazy character.
oh yeah, no, she's one of my favorite actresses, and I wrote in my review like I don't know anyone else who can necessarily play this role the way that she does, and part of it is if you watch Flower or Buffalo or these roles where you're like, she's just embracing the like, I don't care if you like me aspect of the character. And it's such a rare thing to find. I think not for anyone's fault. I think being an actor just in general, you kind of have that, well, like me. Like I'm doing this so you will say nice things and like me.
Yeah.
It's harder if you're not playing a straight up villain to go away from that and go, well, I don't want you to like me. I want you maybe to empathize or sympathize, but you're not supposed to like Danny.
Yeah.
Like she's doing bad things. Like
It's so interesting that there's a desire in the industry to understand female characters through a lens of like, are they a sexy supervillain, or are they like a lovely hero that the entire audience gets on board with? And I tend to write women that don't fall into either of those categories. Danny, I don't really believe in like full-blown villains, but I think Danny's obviously does some pretty despicable things in the film, and the film is not on her side or supporting her actions. So yeah,
you don't even forgive her, which is amazing. I said you don't even really forgive her, which is amazing. Like I think so many films would at the end be like, by the way, everything's cool. And I love that you don't do that, that you leave no, she's gonna live with this. Like there are consequences. Well, it's the rare movie with consequences.
I appreciate that. I definitely felt like, it was something right off the bat when I started working on the script. I knew that like she couldn't have a redemption arc and be let off the hook at the end, because ultimately, I see satire as the perfect way to like hold a mirror back to an audience and like provoke them to like criticize and think about themselves. And so I kind of feel like if you let Danny off the hook at the end, you're sort of letting everyone who sees themselves in Danny off the hook too. And it's like, I kind of like to hold people in that uncomfortable space where they have to walk out and then deal with like how they feel in the wake of the film. I don't know. I guess I like making people uncomfortable in my movies.
Great. No, as you should. I know we're sort of almost out of time, but I love both of your films, so I can't wait to see what's next. But I love that that's what you're doing, that it's not only do I have the opportunity to make these movies, I want to make movies that aren't getting made. And they're original movies. It's such a rare beast. So I was interested in this movie because I love Zoe, but when I saw that you were directing and I saw that Nadia was in it, I was like, oh God, Blame Reunion.
Blame Reunion.
I literally like geeked out about it on my interview with Zoe like 6 months ago for her other film.
Oh wow, that's amazing. I know I talked to some people last night at our screening who have been following the movie for like almost a year because of our TikTok account. It's like, it's so surreal that it's finally coming out into the world.
Oh yeah, well, I'm delighted that it is, and like I said, I can't wait to see what's next, just because you're very good at what you do. There's no reason not to be. So it's great, that. And then this is just such a pleasure. And like I said, I'll maintain being slightly embarrassed that you're so good at your job when I'm so bad at mine.
Don't be embarrassed.
Listen, it happens. But thank you so much for doing this. And like I said, I just am super excited for what's next, because it's wild to think that this is literally still just the beginning.
Crazy.
Thank
you so much for the chat and for the kind words.
Totally.
Thank
My pleasure.
you.